Under. Under. I don't know.
Oh, my son, my grandson, get him.
All right. So we got a couple more trustees coming in.
More.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Bob.
Hi.
Hi, Bobby.
Hi, everybody.
Bobby.
Hey.
I like your hair.
Well, thank you. This summer do.
Little summer do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like the pictures that was posted on Facebook with y'all gathering.
Yeah. We get together every now and then.
Okay, so we are live and we do have enough to get started.
Okay. All right, then I want to call this meeting to order on June the 23rd at 4:34 p.m. The public school retirement system of the city of St. Louis. We'll start with roll call.
Angela Banks. Christina Bennett. Lewis Cross.
Present.
Sheila Goodwin. Donna Jones.
Present.
Yvette Levy. Martell Mann.
Present.
Bobby Richardson.
Present.
Albert Sanders.
Present.
Justin Stein.
I'm present, but I lost my screen.
Okay.
We see you.
And Doris Walker.
Present.
All right. So we have 7, so we do have a quorum.
Okay, great. Welcome, everybody. We'll start off with the approval of the minutes of the last meeting, tab 1, Board of Trustees, regular meeting, April the 18th, 2022. Is there a motion to accept those minutes?
Make a motion that we accept the minutes.
Is there a second?
Richardson second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay. Next, we'll have the reading of the communications to the Board of Trustees. Sue?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Next, we'll do the presentations by interested parties. Do we have anything, Sue?
I do not have anything.
Okay, consent agenda, approval of retirement and benefits, May and June of 2022. Is there a motion to approve those benefits and retirement and benefits?
I would like to make a motion for the approval of the retirements and benefits May and June 2022.
Is there a second?
Second, Doris.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Okay, then can I get the motion for the approval of the refunds and bills for April and May of 2022? Is there a motion?
I would like to make a motion for the approval of refunds and bills April and May 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
Sheila Goodman, second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? We have somebody in the background, some noise. If you all can mute if you have that noise in the background, please.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think Donna is somewhere, so she's just unmuting
oh, okay,
as
all
she
right, well-
has to vote and so forth, so.
I got you. That's fine. Okay, so now we'll move on to unfinished business. Do we have any, Sue?
I don't have anything.
Okay, then we'll start with the report of the executive director. Sue?
Did you want to do your report first?
First.
Mr. Chair?
I'm sorry, yes. Okay, first, I want to talk about the fall, what we need to do for the fall. And I know Sheila, you're and Bobby, parent-teacher conference is October the 17th. And so we want to, Sue and I have chatted about possibly moving that day for the meeting to another day. And Sue, what was that day that you suggested?
Well, we could do the following Monday, which would be the 24th. I think parent-teacher conferences on the SLPS calendar is pretty much that whole week of the 17th of October.
Okay,
So we could do the following Monday, or we could pick another day.
okay, Sheila and Bobby, do you all have any suggestions? Sheila, you're in the classroom. Bobby, you're at a school. You all have a suggestion about a date? You want to look at your calendar and see what would be a good day to have the meeting so we could possibly change it?
So we
Yeah,
look
because
forward
that's
to-
also the time for the NCTR meeting in Tucson
Oh,
in October. So when
Okay.
is the NCTR meeting?
That's the beginning of October.
It's October 10th.
October 10th? Okay, that's no problem then. All
no
Okay.
right.
problem for me.
So then
So
what
the
do
week
you all
after
suggest?
works,
What are you all suggesting?
24th.
the
The
Monday
24th?
after.
That's what day is that?
Monday, the 24th.
Okay, let me look at, is that acceptable to you and Sheila, you and Bobby?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the 24th, we'll move the, so we need to have let me see, hold on. Oh, boy.
It's acceptable
Hold
to
on.
me too. I'm in a classroom.
Oh, okay, Al, I didn't know you were on, I'm sorry. Okay, so October the 24th is good for everybody. So we'll move it from the 21st to the 24th. Is that, no, the 17th? Wait a minute, I'm sorry. We'll move it from the 21st to the 24th. Is that right?
From the 17th to the 24th.
I'm sorry, the 17th to the 24th. Okay, so can I have a motion to do that?
I would like to make a motion. I'm sorry. This is Bobby. I would like to make a motion to change the October board meeting to Monday, October the 24th, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll
Aye.
do a
Aye.
roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry, roll call, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's right.
So Christina Bennett,
Yes.
Lewis Cross,
Yes,
Sheila Goodwin,
Yes.
Donna Jones,
Yes. Yes.
Martell Mann,
Yes.
Bobby Richardson,
Yes.
Albert Sanders,
Yes.
Justin Stein,
Yes.
Doris Walker.
Yes.
All right. So we have 9, the motion carries.
Okay. I guess, I don't know if this is too early, but I wanted to also address the Juneteenth for next year. I wanted to, now the school system was out for Juneteenth. Most school systems were. It was voted, I mean, it was approved as a national holiday for this year. But I wanted to see if we could get a motion so that next year we will honor Juneteenth. Is that going to be is that always on a Monday, or was that just because it fell on a Sunday? Does anybody
Because it
know?
fell
for
on a
next-
Sunday. I think
Okay,
because it
so-
fell on a Sunday.
Okay, so the 19th for 23 would be on a day when we
Monday.
wouldn't, huh?
Would be on a Monday.
It'll be on a Monday.
Okay, so then the Monday would be the Juneteenth next year? Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we honor Juneteenth for 2023, June of 23, and that we honor that as a holiday where our staff and everyone is off as well, just as they did with the school system.
Can we, I don't know how you do it. I mean, I like that motion, but can we make it that we would just add it as a holiday to our calendar every year? Because otherwise,
That sounds good, Al.
we have to do a
Can-
motion every year.
So Louis, can you amend it to say that our employee staff holidays will mirror federal holidays?
So.
Yes, Christina.
Yeah, let
I'm
me,
sorry, go ahead, Sue.
yeah, I was just gonna jump in. So this would be rule changes. You know, Matt and I are looking at, some rule changes. So this is one, we talked about along with a few other items. So, we do plan to include that. And I think the process for rule changes, we have to
2
like
meetings.
read it and then we
Right,
vote on it at a
exactly.
second meeting.
So I wanted to get it started today.
Yeah, so, yeah, if we want to, I guess, have the official reading today or whatever, and then I guess we would vote on it in the August meeting.
Okay. Is
Yeah,
that
I think that-
acceptable to everybody?
Yes.
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 Okay. So at this juncture, do I need to still have a motion, Sue?
Yeah, I think, Matt, I think we would just typically, talk about what it is. I don't know what your thoughts are, Matt.
I mean, my suggestion is the board can go ahead with the motion to, I guess, close the office on Juneteenth officially going forward. And then our rule book, which has a separate section about employee holidays, that's something I've discussed with Sue, is specifically this. We're actually planning some additional rule changes that we're going to be presenting to the board perhaps for the August meeting. And so we will officially update the rule book with that. So I don't think there's any problem with the board today voting to make that an official holiday for the employees as well as a day of observance for the office as well.
So Matt,
Okay, go ahead. Sue.
Louis, we're out of order. So any rule changes have to go through a committee, be presented from the committee to the board with proper reading, and then we get it approved. So this would have to
That's
be a
true.
recommendation to the Rules and Regulations Committee, and then it can be incorporated with anything that Sue and is going to propose and change at a committee. Then we have the first reading, and then we approve it after the second reading. But it has to go through committee to make for it to be effective. We can't take a motion now to change employee policies if it doesn't come out of committee.
Well, then what I would do then, and you're absolutely correct, Christina. So then I guess what I'm fishing for, Matt, is what is the correct procedure for us to get this started with the Rules and Regulations Committee?
So the
Do
rule
we
change
still
to be
do a motion
proposed-
on this for them to do it?
The rule change is proposed at one meeting. It's not discussed or voted on at that meeting. It is just presented and read at the first meeting. Then at the second meeting, it is read and voted on at that meeting. And then in the interim, as Trustee Bennett alluded to, there can be further discussion at a committee level. There doesn't have to be a committee level, though typically it is done at the committee level. And then it is ratified at a full board meeting at a second meeting.
Okay, then. So are we in line now with
So
what we've done so far?
We just have to recommend.
Hold on, Chris. Hold on, Chris. Are we in line now, Matt, with what we've done so far?
So if you would officially, I guess, propose or recommend that rule change, so that way the minutes would reflect that, and then we can draft up the rule change, and then we can circulate it for a vote and discussion at the next meeting.
Okay, so we do need to have a motion at this point to do that?
No, you don't.
All right. So the recommendation that we discussed is sufficient?
Correct.
Okay, then. All right, go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just saying, Matt, we just have to be consistent. In order to present something, even if it's in Lewis's board, it would have to go to new business and be presented on the agenda as new business with a reading.
So you want to move to new business for today?
Well, it would have had to been presented some type of written form so that it can go in the written format to be read. So it should have been presented as new business and it be formally put on the agenda as new business with a motion there prepared so that we can present it. And then, but we don't take any votes on it. If it's not coming out of committee, which it usually is supposed to go to committee and then come out, then if it's going to be presented as the board to discuss, then it has to be put in writing. And then if you recall, we always had to have it in writing in order to read it at a board meeting.
Right. No, you are correct. Typically for rule changes, it is presented in writing. Since this is just sort of a one vote to have this day off, it's just not something that would, I mean, it's basically however the board wants to do it.
Hold on, Sheila. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, typically it is presented prior to the meeting in writing. I think here, since we're talking about something that's a year ahead of time, you know, if that's how the board wants to do it, that's certainly fine. We can present it in writing, and we can make that as a part of our rule changes. We have a number of rule change packages that we're going to be presenting to the board here by the next meeting. So if we can include that and follow the process for all the rule changes and make that as a part of it if the board wants to follow it that way.
Okay, then. Well, then why don't we just do this? We can move it to new business and discuss it at that particular point in time. And then in the interim, we can do the writing of it. Is that sufficient?
Yes, I think officially for it to occur, we will present it as a part of a rule change package where we have a whole host of rule changes that we will propose. And then we'll follow the process for that, which will be, we'll present at the August meeting. It'll then be referred to the committee in the interim, and then it'll be brought before the full board in October for the official vote.
Okay. All right, then. I'm pleased to.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry,
Hello?
Sheila. I had told you to go on and I didn't hear you, so I didn't know. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you now.
Okay, Matt, the rules, the changes that you and Susan have discussed, do we have to follow the same procedure with the bringing it in committee and taking it out of committee? Is that the
Yes,
same
yes.
procedure?
Yes.
So all those changes that you are going to be presenting, then it has to go to a committee then?
Oh, sure. These aren't changes that we're going to unilaterally undertake. These are just ideas or, you know, proposals that we've come up with for the board to consider. But it would still follow the normal amendment process all the way through.
Okay, so all these have to go to a committee then?
Yes, after the August meeting, there will be a committee.
All right.
Yeah,
Just
that would
making
be
sure.
the Legislative Rules and Regulations Committee. We would have a
Right.
meeting to review all and
Gotcha.
discuss all of those.
No, I'm just
Okay.
making sure this is the same procedure. Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Was there any other discussion on this? And I know if you all feel like I was jumping the gun, I wasn't. I just wanted to as part of my report, just interject the fact that going forward, whatever we have to do to get that in the rules changes, I wanted to do early so that we have it done and it's out of the way, so that we know next year exactly where we are. Like I said, all of the school systems did, for the most part, honor it. And I think 30% of the states made it a holiday with pay. And then there's some discussion about not paying people for the holiday and all that. But I would like it to be another national holiday with pay, and they'd be off just like any other holiday. So that being said, just want to thank everybody for your participation and cooperation for all of our meetings, and the attendance is very high, and that is very important. And going forward this coming year, I would like to see every committee have a report. So that's going to require those committee meetings to transpire. So we'll talk more about how we can craft that so everybody can give an update for their particular committee on everything that's going on, so that we'll have a full report from everybody going forward, starting this coming school year, August. Okay, that concludes my report. Now we'll go to report of Executive Director, tab 4.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I have the usual information in the office updates, so I won't necessarily go on into detail on those. I just did want to point out we did have one overpayment that we discovered this year. It's our first one for 2022. It's by 1 month. So we just got a late notification on that, our systems and so forth. Just so we are working with the bank and the family, hopefully, to collect that 1 month. So, you know, again, it was caught by our new PBI. So not glad that it happened, but glad that we had those checks in place. And then also wanted to let you know, all know that we have completed our first quarter with processing the staff payroll through our new provider, and things are going pretty well. The staff now has access to pay statements. So they have a site they can log on to, and they have pay statements, and it has their vacation, sick accruals on it. So it's actually, it's worked out really well so far, and it is far less cost than we anticipated. So that's a nice bonus as well. So I wanted to mention that that is up and running, and we're good to go there. Another update that I wanted to pass on is the devices for the trustees. We had 4 trustees that are interested in getting a device. So we've been having, since the last meeting, we've been having some very good discussions with our technology firm, and they've done some really nice research. Didn't realize, you know, to the degree that they would do their research, but they've done some great things. So I think we've kind of narrowed it down, but we need to do some additional testing. There's something that's happening with Zoom, and you know, Chromebook is one of the things that we are, you know, really strongly considering. There seems to be some different things that we can do with a Chromebook on a support side as opposed to an iPad. But there are some upcoming changes with Zoom and how it works with Chromebook. We don't think it's a big deal, but we're going to be doing some testing. So we've got, you know, the process of ordering one of those devices, and we'll begin testing and, you know, getting everything ready so that when we see all is well, then we can get those ordered. And there will be support with our technology company for those individuals, and they'll help get it set up, and then they'll be able to provide support. So if there's anything that happens, the start of a meeting or something like that, we'll provide information on how individuals can connect with our technology firm to get in and to access everything. So stay tuned. Possibly by August meeting, we might have something, but I just wanted to let everybody know that is still undergoing some review, but I think we're getting closer now. And so appreciate your patience with that, but it is going to happen. All right. Any questions on that?
Sue, I did have a question about the overpayment. The process that we have in place now is with that, it's not with the old firm, it's with the new firm, right?
Yeah, PBI is our provider services. So they are the ones, we have a process where we submit. Actually, our data is constantly being monitored, but every month we update it. So again, yes, they are the ones that, found this particular individual.
Okay, and then do we have someone in the office that also works in conjunction with them at all, or is that, okay?
Yeah.
Are there several people or just one person, or how does that work?
Well, it's kind of a team approach with getting the file together and submitted, but we do have one individual who takes kind of some extra steps and monitors, like a lot of our older folks. We do have a program where we do send out birthday cards to any of our retirees who are 90 and above, so that we, ask them to respond and give us kind of a written, any updates to their address and so forth. So we do have somebody that's in charge of that program. And then that individual also goes out and does some extra monitoring on those older retirees. We've got a few that are older than 100. We actually had one of our retirees that survived, as a baby, 1918. And then, here we are in the pandemic year. So there was some recent articles about that individual. So anyway, we do have some over 100 retirees. And so she goes out and kind of checks on those individuals pretty frequently.
I see.
So there's a lot of checking that's being undertaken with those individuals.
I see. Very good, Sue.
Okay. So I think next up, we are pleased to have Gallagher with us here tonight. We have Allison and Steve from Gallagher, and they're going to talk to us about our fiduciary policy. And we do have renewal that's coming up in July. And so we wanted to kind of talk about what Gallagher's been doing with that renewal, what's happened in the market. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Allison. And Allison, I can put up your information that you sent if you'd like to walk through that. Allison and Steve, to kind of talk us through the fiduciary.
Great, thanks, Susan. Can everyone hear me? Are we good?
Yes, I can.
So we've been working, Steve and I have been working in partnership with Susan for about 120 days here on this fiduciary liability that is renewing next month. And if you don't mind sharing the screen, Susan, just so we can kind of see, the market has taken quite a bit of changes, and we were able to avoid some of those changes last year at renewal. And I'll let Steve get into more details here in a minute. But this year we came up with some options and some plans, and so we just kind of wanted to talk through what that looks like for you all today and kind of present what we've come up with.
Okay, so is that the page you want?
Yeah, that's perfect. So we went ahead and just looked over the changes in the exposure from last year. So you can see that the assets in the plan are up a bit from last year. Participants is down, but really what we look here is the pension assets is what the basis is rated off of for the fiduciary insurance coverage. And we went ahead and benchmarked it against peers in this industry, what that looks like. So just to make sure that you guys feel confident in the limit that you're buying, not that you're overbuying or underbuying, we went ahead and ran the benchmarking on it. So you can kind of see here where it says appropriate limits to consider the fiduciary liability. The benchmarking range is where we put in the assets and stuff, and then recommended limit is 10 million, which is what you guys are currently buying. So all good there. Steve, do you want to walk through kind of what the renewal actually looked like and what we came up with?
Sure. Can you hear me now? Sorry, I had it muted. Appreciate everyone's time this afternoon. Insurance, as you know, is cyclical. It has ups and downs. And right now we're in what we call a very firm or difficult marketplace for fiduciary liability insurance. Not only for plans like yourself, but for church plans, for all types of plans that are out there. The insurance marketplace for that protection has become very difficult or hard to get, partly because there's a claim trend going through the industry right now called an excessive fee claim. And this is a claim where the plaintiff attorneys bring suit against the fiduciaries or the trustees, saying they didn't do their fiduciary duty and making sure the fees that they charge their plan participants are fair and appropriate for the services, but also the type of plan that's out there. The challenge is this has been going on with very large plans, like over $1 billion of plan assets. And the plaintiff attorneys now are kind of working through the food chain, and we're down to, plans like us. Usually the average size right now that we're seeing suits on these type of matters are between 300 and 800 million in plan assets. And what they're doing is they allege that, you guys haven't done your fiduciary duty of doing RFPs to make sure the partners that you have helping are charging an appropriate rate. And what they feel is an appropriate rate is a range that the attorneys have come up with. Scary thing about it is the average claim right now is about $5 million. It's all defense. It's all paying attorneys. And the insurance companies, this has been going on for 5 years. This is not a new thing. But in the last year, the insurance companies have been seeing between 5 to 10 of these matters a month. And when the premiums are very inexpensive, like it is for fiduciary liability, there's like a knee-jerk reaction in the insurance industry. And that's what's happened since January. And some of the effect of that market is affecting us just because of how the carriers offer the product, priced it. And we knew that. We talked about it with Susan and in our discussions of the marketing of the program. Travelers back in December came back and advised us, and most of the primary fiduciary carriers like Travelers, Chubb, AIG, others, have been carving back their interest or capacity on these programs because of these number of claims they're getting. And most of them are offering $5 million. And Travelers came back in January and advised Gallagher, and we advised that there was going to be changes. We sent a letter that they were going to carve back their capacity of $5 million this year in our program. Knowing that, the two of us took the program into the insurance marketplace to key players to see if we can get an alternative $10 million. And if not, then try to get the excess capacity and ensure we had the $10 million worth of limited coverage. That's how the charts are shown. So I have the current program, which is the $10 million. That's what's expiring on July 20th. And then on the renewal, we still have $10 million. But this year, we're going to have to add an excess carrier who's going to follow form and offer similar coverage as Travelers. They follow Travelers' policy form. But they'll give us the capacity to offer you the $10 million. Unfortunately, I've been doing a lot of this since January of rebuilding programs because $5 million, the challenge with it is it just causes it to be more expensive. And the market is continuing to firm. We expect we're going to probably see this for fiduciary liability insurance probably for another year to 2 years until these excessive claims kind of work through the courts and work through the system based on the plan size. Positive is we didn't lose or change any terms on our primary coverage with Travelers. The only challenge we had is that we had to add the extra capacity, which caused us to have a slight premium change. And the one that we're recommending is 17%. Now, 17% is high. I'm not saying that I like to come in and advise you're going to have a higher cost. But the positive is the average that Gallagher has been seeing for programs like us has actually been higher than that. Most of my programs in the first and second quarter of 2022 has been seen between a 20 to 40% adjustment. So I took the 17% as a win for you and your team. They like the board structure. They like what the plan is doing, the investments. And that's compliment in the sense that we're not following what the average adjustments and premium costs are. So again, sound coverage. It protects you as trustees for doing the management and oversight of the plan, working with investment provider and funding the plan. It also addresses the administrative aspect of the plan in the sense of the people who sign people up, take their payroll or pay the premiums, pay the taxes. It's very broad coverage. And again, it's there to protect each of you for doing your duty as fiduciaries, but it's also there to protect those who support you in administrating the plan with the various schools and participants. Any questions? I know I've spoken a lot quickly and a lot of information, but I just want to be upfront with you. This is a insurance issue more than a market issue, more than there's anything related to your plan or any of you. This is the fun of insurance. We go through cycles, and right now, for fiduciary liability, it's very difficult. I also assist you on your blanket crime coverage, which covers the dishonesty or the theft of funds and things like that. That program is also written by Travelers. It's on a multi-year program. We don't have to worry about this renewal. I'll get to talk to you next year about the blanket crime renewal. That market is not as crazy as the fiduciary liability. But the markets out there that are changing, and each of you maybe can appreciate this with what you do, or maybe not, but fiduciary and cyber are probably the most difficult markets right now of insurance to get placed for companies and as well as organizations like yourself. And what's driving fiduciary, unfortunately, is claim activity. It was a perfect storm to the economy and everything else that's going on. So I hope you appreciate it. That's why we did so much marketing. We wanted to ensure that we had the most economic carrier stepping in if they weren't going to replace the program, offering the excess capacity. And I do that every year for you because I know as a fiduciary and as a board, you need to show that we are competitive. We went and sought options. I don't want to just rely on Travelers. I make them earn their stripe every year and their loyalty. And be honest with you, they've been a good partner for the group. They've been your partners for more than 7 years. And you know what? They've been very fair to us compared to what some of the other carriers like AIG and Chubb and others have been doing right now in the marketplace. Any questions?
Yeah, this is Christina. So a question on the fiduciary. You're saying that claims is the reason why?
Well, right now, the claim activity that the carriers are receiving from policyholders, they're driving the change in rate and pricing for coverage and interest of capacity. That's what all insurance does. If you think of your homeowners or your auto, it's been kind of crazy the last 2 years, no matter where you live in the States.
Yeah.
And
well,
it's due to the fires.
This is fiduciary, right? So this is very specific fiduciary insurance, which means it, so are we saying that the losses and claims are because other similar plans like ours are seeing losses, or is it that, or there's suits from plans going into investment providers? Because this is, fiduciary liability, I'm assuming would be one that is the last resort, for us to hear as plan sponsors, as retirement plans, to be able to see that our policies for this type of liabilities is going down, or that they don't want to take on the appetite of it. What are our other peers doing? Or do you have any other clients in our peer group?
Most of my peers right now are addressing and just maintaining the coverage that they have, because you still have a liability to being sued and brought into litigation. Most of them have continued to purchase the limits that they had purchased before. It's only on cyber that I've seen clients maybe buy less just because the cost has jumped 150% or more for them, and they just don't have the funds to pay for it. But on the fiduciary, a lot of my clients, and I do a number of pension plans, similar to yours, as well as just commercial plans as part of businesses. And most of my clientele have been maintaining, they're not happy with the increase, but they also respect that, you know, the coverage is there to protect them and the plan. And this will change. It's insurance, unfortunately. We're going to go into a competitive marketplace probably in the next, 2 years as we work through this claim issue that the carriers are having. The carriers are looking at this as a business issue in the sense of, how much risk do they want to take on? And is it, at what price, right, for their capacity? And that's what causes cycles in insurance. This has, again, still very broad coverage. Thankfully, they haven't put restrictions in the coverage to you or added more or a higher, we have a zero retention. A lot of my plans have been getting, I'm just told that they're going to have a, $100,000, $200,000 retention. And Travelers didn't do that. So again, I appreciate but this is being driven more by their own loss experience and their financial needs to make sure they meet their commitments to us. So
let me ask you this then. Can you I left my book at home. What is the rating? What is the rating of Markel?
Markel American is an A+ AM Best rated financial. I don't know the S&P rating for them. Anything above an A is a positive in AM Best relative to financial stability and the ability to handle and pay claims. All the carriers I've shown on this page are above an A. Travelers is an A++ rated, which is the highest. Berkshire is an A++ rated. Hudson and Markel are A+. So again, very strong insurance companies. And most of them retain our risk as an insurance company. They don't transfer it to reinsurers or anyone else. And we won't get into that discussion. Lewis will kill me if I go into that much detail. So,
Steve, I have a question, but I'm going to have to defer to Matt. The question is centering around, we had an issue, Matt, with Sullivan. He was on the board and he wanted to know something about litigation against the individual trustees and were they covered, and how does this relate to what is being offered by Travelers? Matt, if you can kind of help me with that.
So Travelers is fiduciary insurance that covers the retirement system as well as covers the retirees. That's right, the board, the trustees in their official capacity as trustees. So if in the event we are sued and there are allegations for breaches of fiduciary duty, then Travelers, or if we have an additional coverage on top of that, they should cover you for any liability related to the breach of fiduciary duty. And so it covers you personally as a trustee to the extent you may have any loss relating to a breach of fiduciary duty that may be covered.
And so that was, I think, was it before 10 million per trustee, or was that less than that?
I think it's 10 million as a whole. And there are, I don't have a policy in front of me, but sometimes there are per claims or overall limits. And that may be something that Gallagher can get into specifically regarding that.
Okay, that would be something, Steve, Steve, that I'd like to know, in other words, what Matt.
The limit is it's a shared limit between the individuals and the organization. It's one $10 million limit. That's why we did the benchmarking. We give guidance. Remember, damages that be awarded against us can be based on our plan size, type of plan, what the issue is, right? If it's a claim issue or a service issue, or we didn't pay taxes or something relative to the plan itself. But your protection and everyone on the boards is shared with the plan and in that $10 million limit. It includes defense costs as well as damages.
Okay.
So it's first dollar protection. There's no retention. If it's not fraud or criminal, the carrier should offer defense that will protect both of you, and more importantly, you. But again, it's a shared limit to Matt's question.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a very common approach of the shared on these, what we call claims made policies. D&O is written this way, employment practices, cyber, they're all written utilizing an aggregate versus a per occurrence, like your casualty or your work comp or auto would use.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's why we offered Lewis the benchmarking to give an appreciation that, you know, based on our structure and our size, people who responded of fiduciary coverage purchased between that 10 to 20 million range. And based on our size and structure, we thought we were closer to the 10 than the 20 in that model. Unfortunately, Gallagher doesn't let me give you a specific dollar amount. Or, you know, I have to give you a bell curve, and you want a bell curve because you grow and you go up and down with investments as well as participants each year. But we do that because we also use this with the insurance carriers when we negotiate the pricing and terms for your coverage. You know, depending on where that carrier is, we want to tell them, well, look, you're in the coverage area or you're excess of what would be a loss, at least based on benchmarking. And again, more detail than I need to bring up, right, Allison? Sorry. But we do a number of things with that benchmarking. Not only review and the board guidance, but also the insurance companies. So the only difference to the renewal this year is, and I showed all three of the carriers that quoted excess. We also approached them for primary. They declined to take a shot at travelers. But I offered it just to give you an appreciation of where and what's going on in this market. It's all over. Each of these carriers saw the same information and offered us three different pricing attachment points for that extra capacity. And that's the fun that Allison and I are having right now, is that there's just kind of this the firmness in the market and the lack of competition. You're seeing numbers all over the place. They'll change again in the next year or two. That's what insurance does. But right now we're recommending Markel just because they're being the most cost effective in allowing us to cap that increase at 17%. Is there a reason to take Berkshire over Markel? No. All three carriers that quoted excess they can write primary fiduciary liability, which is one of the guidelines you always look at. So if there's an issue with travelers, they can step down and take the lead. But really, we're just trying to make sure you have the most economically priced protection for that extra capacity you need. You still have the strong and strength of travelers on the primary. So the only conditions to bind is just payment of the premium. Correct, Susan? I think if you go down a little bit, I think I put down at the bottom the report, the condition. The only condition we have, thank you, stop, is payment of the premium. Gallagher will take care of the other condition, which is when there's an excess player, I need to send them the primary policy binder and insurance policy when it's ready so they can issue theirs. But other than that, very straightforward, very sound. Again, positive reaction in the insurance marketplace towards airplane. you just have to appreciate it's a very difficult or firm insurance market. So there's a couple extra steps that Allison and I have to do to get the program put together. If there's any other questions that come up, Matt or Louis or anyone else from the board, please let Susan know. And Susan, if you have any questions too, and Allison and I will try to offer a response, appropriate response in a timely manner. We know you like to do this in June because you don't have a meeting in July. And just to let you know, it won't change much between now and July. So if you're wondering that question, are we doing it too soon? It's probably best we're doing it now and not in July because the market is tightening up again. And don't need you paying more premium for something. I feel like at some point we will see this market change, and Alice and I will start showing credits again. But in the short term, unfortunately, that's why I have so much hair. I've been walking around explaining why the carriers are changing their rates. Hey, thank you very much. We appreciate the loyalty and partnership. Like I said, next year we'll be talking about this program. I'm willing to come in if we all see each other in person again next year and do this in person and answer any questions and walk through the fiduciary policy as well as the blanket crime, maybe a little bit more if you're interested. I just realized you have a couple more things on your agenda, and Susan's going to kill me if I keep taking time. So it is an afternoon call. So thank you. Appreciate it. We just need Susan or a representative to give us some direction, and if you wish to move forward with one of those options, and we'll put it in place, and it'll be in place by your August meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
So
Okay.
I would,
So,
And Louis and
say we would
Susan,
need
if
to
it's
take
okay, I'm
hold on a second. Hold on. Somebody's, go ahead. Was it Steve or Sue? I'm sorry.
sorry, it's Steve again. If it's okay with everyone, I'm going to leave the meeting. But thank you very much for having Gallagher on the call and being a part of it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Steve.
yeah, thank you very much. And
Thank
I was just going to say that we do just need to do a motion to approve if that's what the trustees would like to do, that renewal. So that's that number 3.
Okay. Chris, is she on? Christina,
Yes, I'm here.
can you read number 3 for us?
Oh, hold on, I gotta get to the right screen. Hold on, I got too many screens.
Welcome to the
I'm at
club.
work. I got 3 screens and I have to figure out. Yes, so I make a motion to select the traveler's renewal for fiduciary coverage of 5 million as a primary coverage with excess fiduciary coverage of 5 million. With, what was that firm?
Markle.
Markel. Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, we're gonna do a roll call vote, Sue.
Yes, if there's no other discussion. Angela Banks,
Yes.
Christina Bennett,
Yes,
Louis Cross,
Yes.
Sheila Goodwin,
Yes,
Donna Jones,
Yes.
Martell Mann,
Yes.
Bobby Richardson,
Yes.
Albert Sanders,
Yes.
Justin Stein,
Yes.
Doris Walker.
Yes.
All right, so we have 10. The motion carries.
Okay.
And then I had one other item that I wanted to ask the board for assistance with, and that is with our disability provider. As you all know, one of the types of retirements that folks can do is disability retirement. And that is handled typically by a review of records that applicant will submit from their doctor, specialists, or whoever. So that application will come in, and we have for many, many years worked with Barnes Care. And Barnes Care is has been the provider reviewing records. Well, they unexpectedly told us back in May that they were no longer going to provide this service. Not really gotten any explanation for what happened. I don't know. We tried to get them to, explain or give us other options or whatever, but they were pretty much not interested in continuing with us, which was surprising after such a long time. So we then did, kind of just reached out to see what was available, and, reached out to Matt because I know he works with other plans. And so we did reach out to a couple of some local firms and then some national firms. So we did get two companies that were interested in working with us on doing the disability review. And actually, we will see kind of an enhancement in service. So the company AMR that we are recommending, they're a little more expensive than what we have been paying, but we've been paying that same rate for many, many years. So we were probably well below the market on that. So a little more expensive, but they're going to give us access to a portal. So we can upload all those documents securely, which before we were just sending by a fax. Then we'll also be able to kind of choose who, like the timing of our disability review. If we have something, we get something right before, payroll or something, and we need a quick review, they do give us that option. We would pay a little bit more for that, but we would have that flexibility. We can also have a lot of different doctors to choose from as well. So we like their flexibility. We liked the portal that we saw a demo of. So we are interested in working with AMR as our new disability provider going forward. So any questions about the service? Or
Who is our current provider?
it was Barnes Care.
Barnes Care I'm thinking, so ALSUP on the Illinois side doesn't do this?
That's not one that we got any kind of response from.
Workers' comp. Yeah, I think they
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the difference in the rate between Barnes Care and AMR, Sue? Is it a substantial amount of increase?
It is. We've been paying $100 for review, but we've been paying that $100 for, at least 15 years that I could track. So what AMR's fee would be, base fee would start at around $185. And then if we wanted a quicker turnaround or, it was a lengthier disability claim, then that could get closer to $300. So, we roughly double on the bottom line for just a standard claim.
Who was that? Was that you, Al?
That was my question. So what were we actually paying before? If I missed that, I might have missed it.
Yeah, it was $100 per claim.
So what's our average claim per year, or how many claims do we get?
If we do a dozen in a year, that would be a lot. We've actually, I don't believe we've had any this year. Now we have 2 in the queue. So 12 to 15 is what we would say is our average, but we haven't really done that many that frequently.
So now, Sue, this disability company would go out and handle it. Their doctors would make a determination. Is it every 5 years that they review the disability claim, or how does that work?
Yeah, I think there is some review that in some cases would have to be done. So they really could handle all of that. Most of the time, it's just going to be a review of documents. If we ever had a situation where we wanted someone to be examined by a doctor, they do have the capability of doing that as well. So they work with physicians here in the St. Louis area. But if it's just a review of documents, they can have anyone in the United States really do that. We're not requiring them to be here in Missouri.
Okay. Are there any other trustees that have questions concerning this this matter, the disability matter?
Where's the AMR based out of?
I'm sorry.
I think they are in New Jersey, I think. I think they're on the East Coast.
Okay, Bobby?
Yeah, and I thought Sue said there was two companies that was interested. AMR and what's the second one?
It was MES was the other one. And their fees would started at like $695 a review.
I see why you're recommending AMR.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
What you think, Bobby? You think we better go with AMR? You want to do MES?
I think I'm going with AMR.
Jesus Christ, $600. Okay.
Yeah, and there wasn't the flexibility to choose the timing. That was the other thing that was nice about AMR is we could choose if we needed a fast turnaround. I mean, their average is about 5 to 7 days, which is actually quicker than what we were getting from Barnes Care. But if we needed something in a day, they say they could do that.
Okay. Any other questions from any of the trustees?
Is that a motion we need to make or what?
Yeah, I'll put that
Yeah.
up. Okay, so that's the number 2 motion.
I would like to make a motion to select AMR Advanced Medical Review as the system new disability review provider.
There's a second? Is there a
Christina,
sec-
second.
Okay, we're gonna do a roll call vote.
Okay, Angela Banks,
Yes.
Christina Bennett,
Yes.
Louis Cross,
Yes.
Sheila Goodwin,
Yes.
Donna Jones,
Yes.
Martel Mann,
Yes.
Bobby Richardson,
Yes.
Albert Sanders,
Yes.
Justin Stein,
Yes.
Doris Walker.
Yes.
All right, so we have 10, the motion carries. So thank you. And that is the end of my report.
Okay, thank you so much, Sue. A report of the investment consultant. Is there a report from them?
There is not.
Thank goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, report of the actuary, 2022 valuation results. Report is on tab 4. Actuary.
Yep, so we have both Mike Ribble and
Hey,
Matt
Mike.
Steinbeck from Buck.
Hi, how are
Okay,
you?
fine, you.
Can I share my screen or you want
I'll put it up.
to? Okay. Well, thanks. While we're getting that up, thank you, Mr. Chairman and trustees. Matt and I are here today to present the results of the 2022 actuarial evaluation. And we're going to skip some slides out of the interest of time. And also we built some slides in here that are good takeaways. They describe some key terms and concepts. And we're kind of building towards a full training session that we're planning to have, later this year or early next year between these valuation reports. But we're not going to cover them all today. So on slide 2, it's just an overview of the valuation. This is the purpose of our evaluation is kind of in the middle, is to perform evaluation to monitor the retirement system's funded status and determine the employer contributions. The dark blue stuff on the outside is the census data and assets and assumptions and plan provision. We collect all those as a snapshot date of January 1st, 2022. And so that's important. The market was up, for example, in the assets at January 1st, 2022. And so it's a snapshot of that. We do some things to help mitigate markets up and down in the future. So, and recall that we've implemented a lot of new changes for this valuation, so it makes some comparisons hard because we went through the experience study and we think we've made some really good, the board approved some really good assumptions and methods that will help put this fund on a good track and make it easier to understand and monitor. So on slide 3, Matt's going to go over the participants.
All right, thanks, Mike. So as Mike mentioned, data is one of the key components that go into determining the actual evaluation, the funding status, and the contribution. So in this slide, this is the data reconciliation of the entire population. So each year we receive the data and we go through a process and we determine where all the participants are at from last year to this year. In this report, you can see a full reconciliation of it. But here you can see a high-level overview of each of the main groups. So you can see actives, terminated records, and then pay status. Looking at the total actives, you can see that there's a decrease from 21 to 22 of 390 participants. A large portion of that was from the school district. We did actually see an increase in actives in the charter school population, but overall, we did see a decrease in the total active population. For the terminated records, it kind of ties into the actives. We saw a decrease in the active population, but an increase in the termination records, and that mainly resulted from higher than expected terminations than what we assumed. And then overall in pay status as a group, it stayed relatively the same. Now jumping to the next slide, when looking at the member census information, I'm not going to go over each of the numbers here, but the information is here for the board to review. But we review this information when we look at the data for reasonability, making sure everything checks out to see if there's any questions, and if so, we can dig into it more. The main highlight on this slide is the average covered payroll. You can, even though the active population decreased, the overall covered payroll stayed relatively the same. And a large driver of that was that the average covered payroll increased by 6.3%, which was higher than what we assumed. And that we'll see later in the gain loss of how it kind of affected the liability.
Sydney here? Ask her.
Jumping to slide 5, just a quick overview. The key to understanding the pension plan as a whole is understanding both assets and liabilities. Both of these go into the funding status and the employer contribution. A lot of the times assets are can be followed extremely well by the board, but in order for decisions to be made by the board, liabilities have to be understood as well. So the interplay between them in order to understand contributions or a decision on a benefit enhancement or literally anything in general, the interplay between assets and liabilities are important to understand. So I'm going to go a little bit more in detail in the next slide. So in order for assets and liabilities to work out in the long run for the pension plan, they have to equal. So on the sources of funds, you have your employer contributions and employee contributions. In addition with the current assets and the investment returns in the future, they have to be able to pay off the benefit payments and expenses that we anticipate in the future. Jumping forward to slide 8, a quick overview of actual value of assets. During our last experience study, we did implement a new 5-year smoothing mechanism for the actual value of assets instead of using the market value of assets. The reason for not using the market value of assets is it's going to create more volatility. So for example, we have a 5-year smoothing process right now. This year we set the actual value of assets equal to the market value of assets minus contingency reserve. But for next year, say for example, there's a $50 million loss on assets. On a market value basis, that full $50 million would be recognized immediately. However, with our smoothing mechanism, only $10 million of that would be recognized. So there won't be as much volatility on a funding status basis and a contribution basis. Next slide, please. So this is a snapshot of the report. Next year, we're going to kind of build on it, especially since this year there really isn't any smoothing going into the actual value of assets, because with the new method and from our experience study, we implemented actual value of assets as of January 1st, 2022 to equal market value minus the contingency reserve. When looking at the assets on a market value basis, we did see a 12.5% return during 2021. On an actual value basis, we saw 11.76% return. Part of that return did come into play that we did reset the actual value of assets equal to the market value. But there, you can see by the market value here that the good returns over the year did exceed that 7.5% that we expected. Jumping forward to slide 13, just to save a little bit of time. On the right side here is a graphical or is a picture about the present value of future benefits. Present value future benefits is all the possible benefits being paid out at any point in time in the future. In order to do so, kind of taking a step back, looking at that original balancing item where assets need to equal liabilities, the present value future benefits have to be paid one way or another. Currently right now, and we'll see it on the next slide, the current status, but that present value future benefits has to be paid. So in the pink, you have the actual value of assets, and the rest of the part is unfunded accrued liability. Those have to be paid out by present value of future employer and employee contributions. In order to calculate the present value future benefits, those are retirement benefits, death benefits, disability, refund of employee contributions in the future. In order to do so, we have to make assumptions in order to calculate how long they might work, what salary they may be, when their benefit may start, and how long are they actually going to receive that benefit. Next slide, please. So currently the plan has $1.4 billion of present value future benefits. The blue section, the light blue section here represents what is funded right now based on the actual value of assets, which is approximately 67% of the total present value future benefits. That means 33% of it has to be funded in the future from employer or employee contributions. Next slide, please. Some key terminology around liability is the normal cost and accrued liability. And you're going to see that here shortly in the gain loss and when Mike talks about the valuation results. The normal cost is essentially how much is it going to cost for a participant to earn an additional year of service and get closer to retirement. And the accrued liability is the sum of all those prior normal costs. So for example, say a participant has 15 years of service. The normal cost is how much is it going to cost for them to get additional 1 year of service, while the accrued liability is the sum of those 15 years normal costs in the past. Jumping to slide 18. Some type of assumptions. A few more slides, please, Sue. Thank you. So types of assumptions. We make demographic and economic and evaluation, calculate the liability. In doing so, we went through that recent experience study to best represent the reasonable long-term expectations. Going to the next slide, gains and losses are going to happen. Unfortunately, we can't predict the future or make our job way too easy. So the actual experience will never match on a demographic or economic basis. So we look on a gain loss on an asset liability side. If there's any instances where the difference is better than expected, it's a gain. And that's going to decrease unfunded accrued liability. Whenever experience is worse than expected, it creates a loss and it increases that unfunded accrued liability. Volatility is uncertainty, and volatility can destroy budgets, which is why we perform those experience studies every 5 years. In addition to that, we look at trends on the assumptions each year to make sure everything makes sense so we can minimize that volatility as much as possible. Going to the next slide, looking at the gain loss on assets. Each year we like to look on the gain loss on liabilities and assets, make sure everything is making sense. On the asset standpoint, we start with the actual value of assets last year. We account for contributions, benefit payments, and expenses over the year, and calculate what we expected the actual value assets to be. and we compare that to the actual actuarial value of assets. So you can see here at the very bottom of the slide that we did have a reasonable size gain on the assets of 36.9 million. A portion of that was us resetting to market value assets, but overall, we did see a gain, and you'll see when Mike presents the valuation results that it did help decrease unfunded accrued liability as a result of that. Now, looking at the gain loss on the liability side of it, on the next slide, we look at the normal cost and accrued liability as of last year. We account for benefit payments and we roll forward what we anticipate that current year actuarial accrued liability to be. Since we implemented an experience study, we also account for assumption changes. So what we expected, we increased by $12.3 million to get $1.27 billion of accrued liability that we anticipated. When comparing that to the actual liability, we did see a $9.9 million loss on the liability side of it, which is really only 0.8% of the total liability. So relatively minor overall, and especially with the assumptions, we're never going to get a gain loss exactly.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah,
Matt, this
go
is
ahead.
Christina. What were the changes? Were there any major changes to your assumptions?
Yes. So we implemented the new public sector table. Mike, do we have a table listing all of the assumption changes? Did we put that in the very back?
No, it was in the experience study that we presented to the board in December. The major assumption changes were the mortality table, which is more recent, and the board also lowered the investment rate of return assumption, or the discount rate for the valuation, from 7.5% to 7%.
Mike,
those are the main things.
We actually do. Yeah, on slide 40, we actually do have a full, it's in the appendix section, a list of all the assumption and method changes that we implemented in the last experience study.
I was just asking for what Mike said is, I'm more concerned about, did the rate go from 7.5 to 7 or not?
Yes.
So, okay, thanks. We can proceed. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Okay, no worries. Thank you. A large driver of the loss was jumping back to that, looking at the data, was the salary increases being higher than expected. That was mitigated slightly since we saw higher than expected terminations, which helped minimize the loss of the liabilities. But those were kind of the two main factors when analyzing the gain loss. Now I want to pass it over to Mike to discuss the valuation results.
Okay, slide 23. The two key terms that, kind of the monitoring of the plan that we need to understand, or we throw around a lot, are the unfunded liability and the funded status. So the unfunded liability is, in simplest terms, liability is how much money we want to have in the fund, and how much we're expected to pay out in benefits accrued to date. So the liability is the target, and the assets is what we currently have. So the unfunded liability is also referred to as pension debt. It's basically the liability minus the assets. That's the pension debt of the fund. And the funded status is basically a percentage of how well the plan is funded. So you take the assets divided by the liability. So the funded status, also called the funded percent and funded ratio. While we're always trying to move towards 100%, a fully planned, you might call it fully funded plan. It means zero debt, basically. It doesn't mean there's no contributions if we ever reached 100%, because remember the normal cost that Matt explained. People are still accruing benefits and earning benefits every year in their benefit formula for every year of service they complete. So we'll always have a normal cost contribution. So on slide 24, these are the key results of the kind of monitoring part of the plan results. Matt already talked about the market value and the actuarial value were set equal at 943 million on the left side is our 2022 results. The liabilities of the plan, so what's been accrued to date is about $1.28 billion. So we have an unfunded liability of 337 million. And if you look to the right, there's a number 242 million. That is not an apples to apples comparison this year. We had a completely different funding method last year. The number last year was actually 364 million compared to 337 million of pension debt this year. So we actually did pay down the debt due to the good returns and the contributions that went into the system. And as proof of that, you can tell based on our liability measure, apples to apples at the bottom, our funded ratio improved from 71.1% to 73.7%.
Hey, Mike, that was my question that I was gonna have. And for the purposes of the public reviewing this and putting it on our website, can we footnote that page 24? Because I don't want somebody reading it and saying that our unfunded liability went up by almost 100 million, but yet our funding ratio went up as well. So I just want to make sure that we footnote that it's not an apples to apples comparison. Because if not, it's like that doesn't make logical sense.
Yep, I agree. Okay, we will footnote it in the presentation and send that back out. It is footnoted in the report. This is a snapshot from the report, but we deleted I think we eliminated the footnotes for this purpose. But yeah, we can add that back in. That's good feedback. Thank you. All right, so moving on. So that's kind of the plan's funded status. Now we have to talk about contributions. And all these things and topics that go, we'll kind of touch on as we go. But on the next slide, focusing on contributions on 26. This is kind of the balancing scale that Matt showed similar. Contributions are a very important part of the component of keeping a plan funded, of course. And over the lifetime of the retirement systems, everything has to balance out at the end. So the contributions that are put in by members and by the employers, and then they earn investment return on those contributions, at the end of the day, has to be enough to pay for benefit payments and expenses paid. So that's the goal to fully fund the plan. So on the next slide, how do we determine the contribution amount? The second term, the ADEC, actuarially determined employer contribution, is what the key result of the evaluation really is. And how do we get there? We have to add up the components of the contribution formula for the method, which is first we have to determine the normal cost. That again is the cost to fund one additional year of service for active members. And then we have to pay down the pension debt. That's the amortization payment. And that's going to be over a 15-year period. We reset that as part of the experience study. And then we add some interest to make sure that we're aligning the timing of the contributions with the timing of payroll. And when we add those up, we get what we call the actuarially determined contribution. What contributions do we need to fully support the system? From that, we can then subtract out the employee contributions that automatically are coming in through payroll to get the actuarially determined employer contribution. So on the next slide, I've already mentioned this, that's the pension debt formula, and reminding the board that we are paying that down over a 15-year period. It's 336 million, and that'll be over the next 15 years, we'll be paying that down. The gains and losses that might occur next year, for example, the market's down a little bit, right? So we haven't had a good first half of the year. If we have asset losses next year that have to be recognized, that'll be paid over a new 15-year period, and that's what we mean by layered. That was a change we made at the last valuation. It helps smooth the volatility of the contribution requirements. So on slide 29, not going to go through all these numbers. It's a snapshot of the report. And
Mike, can you repeat that again? Can you repeat the fact that if next year we have a loss, it kicks in a brand new 15-year rolling amortization for that?
Yeah,
for every year.
Right. So it's like I've described this like we had the 336 million. That's the house, right? We're paying that down over 15 years, and it will be paid off after 15 years according to this funding method, if we were to get all those contributions in. But next year, say we have a $10 million asset loss, right? Because our assets are down, even though we smooth it out, we have to recognize $10 million. Well, we're going to pay for that not over the 14 years that that the house has left, it's like buying a car, a really nice car, but that's going to be paid over a new 15-year period. That's where the layering comes in. So as each valuation goes, you know, you have the one big payment, and then you're going to have a bunch of incremental small payments that come along with each valuation. You just don't see it this year because we're resetting to this method, which is
Right. And if a gain occurs,
then we'll have a credit. So that will reduce the total amortization payment in that year. It'll just, but that if we get a good asset return the other way, then we'll have a credit, but it'll be spread over a 15-year amortization as well. And we'll be getting that credit for 15 years, basically.
oh, you're spreading the credit. It's not a LIFO basis. It's not last in, first out for the credit on the unfunded.
Whether it's a good guy, a gain, or a bad guy, a loss, an actual loss, whatever the case is at next valuation, you know, and hopefully it's incremental to the $336 million, right? It's just maybe another 10 million on that. That will be, no matter what happens, that will be spread over a new 15-year period. And we'll keep track of it forever.
Okay.
Unless the plan becomes 100% funded, and then we'll consider starting fresh. But
right. So you're smoothing the gains as well for amortization, not over just 5 years, but over 15.
Right. That way, if we have a good year and a bad year, they kind of offset each other, you know, over time. It should be, it should really lead to pretty stable, relatively stable contributions. If you didn't have that, it wouldn't be stable.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. On 29, when we review the footnotes, oh, we're already on 29, sorry. When we review the footnotes, we can make sure we're footnoting here properly as well. I'm not going to go through all these numbers, but this is that same formula that I was talking about where we're adding in that we're taking our unfunded that's in row F, and we're amortizing that, I think, in row K with interest, and we're adding the normal cost in I with interest to get to the ADC in item L of $58 million. And we're subtracting $21 million of expected member contributions to get to our actuarially determined employer contribution of $37 million at the bottom. It compares favorably to last year's $45 million, mainly due to the good asset performance. So as a percent of payroll, it's dropping from 17.1% to 14.28%. So good returns lowered that actuarial determined employer contribution at the bottom. On the next slide, this is that the top part is the same $37 million actuarial determined employer contribution developed. It's also split by the three employer types: Board of Education, retirement system, and the charter schools. And on the bottom is important that we've been talking about the actually determined employer contribution. In other words, we want to get $37 million into the fund, right? But statutorily, this plan has a limit, and for 2022, it's 14% of payroll. Last year it was 14.5%, and next year it'll be down to 13.5%. So it's been going down 0.5% per year. And based on the payroll that we expect and the 14%, that we call it the statutory annual required contribution, what's paid by statute is going to be $36.3 million. So we're about $700,000 short from our actuarial determined contribution of $37 million down to the 36.3. You know, so that's a bit of a challenge. You know, it just creates some headwinds to getting fully funded because we're not getting enough in. And on the next slide, I won't go through these. It's the same thing on the top, and we've added 21 on the bottom. And the only thing I'll say about this is on the right side in the total, again, the 37 million for 2022 versus the 36 we got in is not much difference, or 14.28% of payroll versus 14. Last year, that gap was 17% of payroll or 14.5% of payroll. So as opposed to $700,000 difference this year, last year the difference was 6.9 million. So that number, you know, is while we closed the gap a lot this year, we would expect it to widen a little bit in the 2023 valuation because the statutory arc is, as I mentioned, is going down to 13.5%. And based on the first 6 months of asset return, we're expecting the actuarial determined to grow above the 14.28%. So we'll have a bit of a widening again next year. Like I said, it does create some challenges. I guess I would just buzz through. The next slide is just a quick history of the funded ratio, and we're going to build on this. We just went back 5 years because that's where we could get apples to apples entry age normal accrued liability. And you can see the last 2 good years of market return, you know, these numbers are all in the 70, but we are on the up, you know, but we might expect a little bit of a dip in there if the market doesn't improve. Slide 33. I think we've covered investment risk is the 2 key risks, the investment risk in the first column and the contribution risk, I think, in the third. The investment risk is just not the risk that we don't achieve that 7% return. It was 7.5%. We've lowered the target to 7%. So, you know, we should be able to have a better chance of hitting that, although, you know, the market is tough right now. But we also have an actuarial value of assets method that helps smooth that. And then contribution risk, I think I've mentioned, you know, we have an actuarial contribution that we like to fully fund the plan, and then we have a statutory contribution rate that's a little bit lower than that. And the last slide, it's just a takeaway. We'll go into more detail next year. It's that there's a new actuarial standards of practice that's going to add we already have a risk section in our report at the back. If anybody's made it that far back, congratulations. You know, but it's important to describe the risks in valuation report, and there's a new risk that's being required, which is basically rather than value it at 7%, we're going to have to take an interest, think like a low risk. If the plan wasn't in any market risk at all, it would maybe earn 2.5% or 3% or even lower. We're going to have to put a liability in there in the back of the report that shows what that higher liability, it'll be a lot higher because low interest rates create higher liabilities. So we'll work with Sue and staff to kind of the details around the ASOP. It just came out. We have 2 years to get that in place for the 2024 evaluation, unless we do something in the meantime in 2020 after February 15th, 2023. If we do some special project or something, we'll have to disclose that. Just an FYI. Thank you for letting us get through that. I did it as quickly as I could, but are there any questions? All right. I don't know if there needs to be a vote to improve. I know so you may mention we already are going to alter the report a little bit based on some GFOA feedback. Yeah, but I think materially, I think the results are the same, and we will put these asterisks in this presentation as well before it gets posted publicly as well. So with that, Stu, you're on mute.
I make a motion. Oops. Do we make a motion now?
You can, if there's any other questions. Well,
Okay. I make a motion to accept the 2022 actuarial valuation report as presented by the actuary.
Second.
okay. Are there any additional questions or discussion? Okay. Mr. Chairman, would you like me to do a roll call?
Thank you.
Okay, maybe he dropped. I'll go ahead then. Angela Banks,
Yes.
Christina Bennett,
Yes.
Lewis Cross, Sheila Goodwin,
Yes.
Donna Jones, Martell Mann,
Yes.
Bobby Richardson,
Yes.
Albert Sanders, did I hear Albert? Justin Stein,
Yes.
Doris Walker,
Yes.
all right, so we have 7, the motion carries. And I just want to thank Mike and Matt and the team at Buck this year. We did a lot with changing the process of putting all the data, getting the good data together, and we appreciate their help in kind of simplifying that process. It was certainly, our team is not going to dread perhaps next February, because that was always fun times to respond to those actuarial questions. So again, we appreciate your help and assistance with that, as well as our team here at PSRS that put a lot of time and effort into getting that data cleaned up and over to Buck. So thank you all.
Yes, they did. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So, Mr. Chairman, if you're still here, you are on mute.
Well, Bobby, I guess you got to pick up the slack so we can keep this moving.
Okay. All right, well, thank you guys for the presentation. And Sue, I guess we'll move on to our agenda. We're on tab number 11.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, so at this time, it's the report of the committees of the boards. First up is benefits, and that's Donna Jones and myself. So I would like to report that for the RFPs for Medicare Advantage plan have been released, and responses are expected back from the bidders by the end of June of this month. Also, the RFPs for identity theft protection and pre-legal plans have been released. These would be optional benefits that retirees would pay if they were interested. Also, prepaid legal plans provide a variety of legal services, including wills and trusts, even though, through our network attorneys, and they are covered by a monthly premium. Identity theft protections provide monitoring services as well as assisting if a member identity is stolen, and that's a monthly premium. And last, also responses from both the RFPs are also due by the end of this month. And if you have any questions, just ask Sue.
I'm sorry I stepped away. Thank you, Bobby.
I got your back.
Yeah, I know. I should have let you know. I didn't know it was going to be that long.
Okay.
Okay, Sue, I think you own. They said asked you all the questions. So
we'll cover the results in August. That'll be when we will have those responses, and after we've kind of gone through those, and we'll present that to the board in August.
okay, all right. So we trustee business and with Sheila Goodwin and Doris Walker.
Doris? Doris?
Yes.
You all are trustee business, Sheila and Doris Walker. You all have any report?
No reports.
Okay,
Yes, you do. Don't you have a meeting? Did you have a meeting going over the expenses report? Remember? On how to fill out our expense report. Did you have a meeting with and telling the members how to fill out the reports when we travel?
Yes, but no one has filled out any reports when they travel.
No,
you all had training, didn't you?
you trained
Yeah,
them.
we
Did
had
you tell
training.
them how? Well,
Okay.
that's
We
the
had
report.
training on how
Yes.
to fill out that document when you're traveling. And that is important that you bring back all your receipts and a report.
Okay,
Right.
all right,
Okay.
that's what, okay,
That's the
so,
report, Doris.
okay, so that's you all's report?
Yes.
Okay, all right, anything else? I see a hand on the screen here.
No.
Okay, all right. Next, investments with Christina Bennett, Martell Mann, and Dr. Sanders had to leave. He had another meeting. You all have-
Sorry. I'm at work, so let me pull up my. So we had an investment meeting. So we have a couple of things. So Sue, are we on number 5?
Yep.
So we had a meeting, committee on April 21st to discuss, hold on, I'm looking at 2 different screens, so to discuss the changes to our asset allocation based on the recommendations from our investment consultant ANCO. And it was a lengthy and roll up your sleeve discussion. There weren't any major changes. There were some modifications, but it was a very productive meeting, and everyone should have those packets in your emails if you didn't attend the meeting to review. But do we have any questions before we make a motion to approve the asset allocation? Hearing none, can I get a motion for number 5 to improve the asset allocation?
I'd like to
Motion.
go ahead, Martell.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the asset allocations, restructuring, and rebalancing as recommended by ANCO in the investment committee at the April 21st, 2022 meeting.
Richardson, second.
Richardson and Cross, second and third. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Sue, can I get a roll call vote?
Angela Banks,
Yes.
Christina Bennett,
Yes.
Lewis Cross,
Yes,
Sheila Goodwin,
Yes.
Donna Jones, Martell Mann,
Yes.
Bobby Richardson,
Yes.
Justin Stein,
Yes.
Doris Walker.
Yes.
Okay. So we have 8, the motion carries.
So next on the, we have from the investment committee, and again, we've been very busy with our new manager. We had a meeting on May 19th to discuss the rebalancing of the portfolio. And we also discussed that we would hold off on making any new investments to exponents, and we would reduce the amounts of assets from Loomis and Nurburger. Again, all those discussions and presentations are in your email for review if you did not attend. Any questions before I call for the motion? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve item number 6?
I move the motion to accept the updated rebalancing recommendation from ANCO, changing fixed income portion from April 21st recommendation, providing no additional investment to exponents and reducing the amounts taken from Loomis and Newberger as approved by the investment committee at the May 19th, 2022 meeting.
I'll second that.
It's been properly moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing
Second,
none. Oh, Doris, did you have discussion?
no.
Hearing none, can I get a roll call vote?
Angela Banks,
Yes.
Christina Bennett,
Yes.
Louis Cross,
Yes.
Sheila Goodwin,
Yes.
Martell Mann,
Yes.
Bobby Richardson,
Yes.
Justin Stein,
Yes.
Doris Walker.
Yes,
Okay, so again, we have 8 yes votes. Motion carries.
Okay. Also, at the May 19th meeting, we discussed our watch list, how the process that we go through, putting a manager on watch list. And we discussed that while performance was not the issue with Exponents, they did have a portfolio manager that left, which was part of the senior management team. So we wanted to make sure that we added Exponents to the watch list going forward. That would be agenda item number 7 for us. Is there any questions? If not, can I get a motion to approve?
Excuse me, Christina, just want to clarify something. You said Exponent is not on the watch list for performance, but because of management change.
Yes.
But I'm not not aware that we change or we put people on the watch list. Did I miss something there by putting a company on the watch list because of management change?
Yes. So anytime there is a material impact to a manager, whether it is ownership, it is a sale, it is a senior management departure, performance, all those items do require us to take a look at and review with our consultant and put them on watch list, because what happens, Sheila, is this was a key portfolio manager that had been there for many years. And so what you do is you want to ensure that you're watching that the institution of a team approach can continue to produce the same results. So it is a material, so it's considered a material change. That doesn't mean that they won't perform on a performance basis. It just means we want to watch them to ensure that the team that is investing now is utilizing the same strategy. Just as if a manager changed their strategy or deviated from one asset class to another, then we would put that in watch list as well, because that would be a material change in what we knew when we hired.
Okay,
Okay.
Christina, could I, okay, and Matt, isn't there's some statute or something in the regs, state statutes that address that very thing that Christina just addressed?
I'm not sure about the state statutes, but I'm looking here at your investment and operating, the guidelines, page 7, section 7, which governs watch list / probation. It states in the first section there that the board may place a manager on the watch list or on probation in response to significant changes in ownership structure or key personnel. So this would be an instance such as a material management change that would fall within that.
Okay,
Right,
so
thanks,
it's in our regs. Then.
It's in our guidelines, in our operating guidelines.
Exactly. I just wanted to make sure Matt could share that with us to clarify.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other, I'm sorry, Chris.
No. Any other discussion? Hearing none, can I get a roll call vote?
And make a motion first.
Oh, I thought we made a motion, sorry.
I thought we did. Oh, we did?
No.
I think we did make a motion.
Oh, make a motion, sorry.
I, Bobby Richardson, would like to make a motion to add Exponent fixed income manager to the watch list due to management change as recommended by AMCO and the investment committee at the May 19, 2022 meeting.
Goodwin, second.
I'll second it.
It's been properly moved in second. Okay, no, any further discussion? Oh, it did a motion carry?
Yes.
Yes,
Look, I'm sorry, I'm doing multiple things.
that's okay. That's all right. Welcome to the
We
club.
haven't done the roll call
Yeah,
yet.
we have to do
We have
roll
to do a
call.
roll call.
Okay,
Let's
roll
do the
call,
roll
please,
call.
Judy. Thank you, Bobby.
Angela Banks,
Yes.
Christina Bennett,
Yes.
Lewis Cross,
Yes,
Sheila Goodwin,
Yes.
Martell Mann,
Yes.
Bobby Richardson,
Yes.
Justin Stein,
Yes.
Doris Walker.
Yes.
Okay, so once again, we have 8 yes votes. The motion carries.
Thank you, Sue. I apologize. I got the "where's my dinner" call, so.
Okay.
So,
Couple more.
right. So, again, we've been pretty busy. I've got a couple more, I got a couple more motions here. Again, on the May 19th, we had a meeting, and we discussed that due to performance and organizational changes and non-compliance with our NBEWBE brokerage policy, that we wanted to put Intech, one of our large cap managers, on a watch list. And so I just wanted to see if there's any questions before I ask for the motion. Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve item number 8?
I make a motion to add Intech large cap manager to the watch list due to performance organization changes and non-compliance with MWBE policy as recommended by ANCO and the investment committee at the May 19, 2022 meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, can I get a roll call vote?
Angela Banks,
Yes.
Christina Bennett,
Yes.
Lewis Cross,
yes,
Sheila Goodwin,
Yes.
Martell Mann,
Yes.
Bobby Richardson,
Yes.
Justin Stein,
Yes.
Doris Walker.
Yes.
Okay, so again, we have 8 yes votes. The motion carries.
Thank you. And as everyone knows or knows under our guidelines, we have the ability to attend several industry conferences. Some of them are already pre-approved in our guidelines, but our consultant wanted us to review a new conference or to add a new conference. It's called the NPPA conference. It's the National Public Pension Association Conference, and I believe it's up in Wisconsin or something this year. So we wanted to go ahead and allow trustees who cannot attend NASP or NCTR, another, and MAPERS is coming up too in July, but to add this to our list so that we can approve it, any any trustees that would like to attend.
Christina,
Yes.
please refresh those on what the purpose of the National Public Pension Association is.
Yes, it's an organization that, so we have NASP that we go to. We have NCTR, which is the National Council of Teachers Retirement, which is a nationwide. MAPERS is more of the Missouri, that we do more of the locals. And then this one is more of the Midwest. So this is more of a Midwest one that focuses on similar pension plans our size. So it would be similar to MAPERS, but just Midwest instead of just Missouri.
Mm-hmm. And the date of that conference?
That I do not have, but I know it's coming up this summer.
Yeah, I think it's like August, starts around August 8th, I believe. 8th through the 10th or 11th, somewhere in there.
And it's up in Wisconsin.
Lake Geneva,
Yeah, Lake
Yeah,
Geneva.
yeah, Lake Geneva.
Lake
Right.
Geneva. Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Did somebody make the motion?
So can I get a motion to approve item number 9?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve the attendance at the National Public Pension Association Conference as recommended by the Investment Committee at the May 19th meeting.
Second,
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Sue, can I get a roll call vote?
Angela Banks,
Yes.
Christina Bennett,
Yes.
Louis Cross,
Yes.
Sheila Goodwin,
Yes.
Martell Mann,
Yes.
Bobby Richardson,
Yes.
Justin Stein,
Yes.
Doris Walker.
yes.
Okay, once again, 8 yes votes, so the motion carries.
Thanks, Sue. Thank you.
One more.
And then finally, at our last investment meeting, we discussed and had a lengthy discussion about our investment guidelines, updating them, changing them, changing some benchmarks, adding some extensive detail to our exhibits, so that if we add going forward any of our changes or make modifications, it's primarily going to be in the exhibits, not in the document. We cleaned up the guidelines that needed some attention. And so that was a very lengthy, and I thank everyone who attended. But we do have a recommendation to approve the changes that were discussed at that meeting. And that would be line item number 10. Can I get a motion to approve the changes to the investment guidelines?
Make a motion to accept the changes to the investment guideline as recommended by ANCO and the investment committee at the June 16, 2022 meeting.
Richardson, second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Sue, can I get a roll call vote?
Angela Banks,
Yes.
Christina Bennett,
Yes.
Louis Cross,
Yes.
Sheila Goodwin,
Yes.
Martell Mann,
Yes.
Bobby Richardson,
Yes.
Justin Stein,
Yes.
Doris Walker.
Yes.
All right, so that's 8 yes votes. The motion carries.
Thank you, everyone, and for attending those meetings. We've had some extensive, long meetings in the investment committee, but we are off to a good start with our manager, who's really taken a deep dive. And I think that it's been a blessing in disguise, because we have so many new trustees to dig in and understand all of the parts of our investment process that is coming together, and having everybody better understand how we move this pension plan forward, with all of us knowing all the rules and regulations and our asset allocation, which is wonderful. So I appreciate everyone's time. No
Thank you.
further motions from the investment committee. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you all, Martell and Al and Christina. Thank you all so much. We're going to move on to legislative rules and regulations with Justin Stein, and Dr. Sanders had to leave. He had another meeting. So Justin, you're on.
Okay, I don't have anything to report. And I have to leave here
Okay.
very soon. So, but I don't have any report. I'm hoping that we had the trip to Jeff City, draws is fruitful for us, and we can get the legislators to agree to that formula. So it's going to help us out. So that's all I got.
I did want to add one thing, Justin, and thank you so much for your report. Sue and Matt, I would like to do another work session with the board under the Legislative Rules and Regulations Committee. One of the items that was addressed at that meeting by the superintendent was the notion that we should take a look at a 401k for going forward and abandon the pension system. And I just think that was something that we need to respond to, because that if you look at 401ks right now, they're in the dumps, and that's just not the kind of plan. We're not a corporation or anything. We're a school system, and so we can't take a hit like that with our pension and take a chance like that. So I would like, if we could set up another work session meeting for August or September with the board, so that we could respond to and also get a feedback from the board members that have now had a chance to digest the information that we provided to them about our system, and hoping that we can cap the amount at 4% that the board is taking out, and so forth and so on.
Clarify this, were you saying we need to talk about a 401k with the Board of Education?
No, Dr. Adams suggested that instead of having the regular pension system that we have, he said we might want to look into a 401k for a retirement plan. And there was one other one, wasn't it, Matt, that he suggested that we might take a look at? Or joining the state plan. I think it was, and or joining the state plan.
Considered a defined contribution plan, which is contrary to how we're set up by Missouri law and the statute and sort of what we are.
Exactly.
So that's kind of outside the scope of why we exist, particularly.
Exactly.
There's a couple items we can talk about that we can talk in my legal report. Sort of about this.
That's great.
So,
that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's all I have, folks. And I'm going to have to take off. So thanks very much. I look forward to catching up on the rest of the meeting later.
Okay. Take it easy, Justin.
Oh,
all right.
Okay. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Justin. Personnel and professional contracts, that would be Yvette Levy and Angela Banks.
This is Angie. You'll notice in your packets that there are some upcoming requests for proposals, RFPs. There's 3 in there, and I'm sure that you'll all be excited to participate in some evaluation of RFPs in the ensuing months. So more to come on that. Thank you.
All right, Angie, thank you so much. Okay, that concludes the reports of the committees of the board, tab 3. We'll move on to new business. And I think the first item is we repositioned the information that we shared earlier concerning the Juneteenth information. Is that correct, Christina? Hello. Okay. Christina?
Yep, I can hear you. I see my thumbs up. I'm multitasking here.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so then you suggested that we put it in new business. So is there anything else, Sue and Matt, that we need to do? Or are we okay?
I think I just wanted to get it. Go ahead, Trustee Ben.
Did you type up anything, Sue, for him to read on the recommendation for the first reading?
I have not for tonight, no.
Okay, then what we can do is, I'm sorry, Matt.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, I was saying then I guess we can, between now and August, we can draft up some language and then proceed with it at that particular point in time. Is that the best thing to do?
Right. I think that was sort of what we discussed earlier in the meeting, was putting it together in writing so that way we can present it at the next board meeting. And then if there needs to be a committee meeting on it, have that, and then read it, vote on it, and having a discussion at the October meeting.
Okay, that's fine.
So Louis,
Okay.
just the minutes just to read is that you proposed a recommendation or a change to the recommendation for Juneteenth and referred it to the Rules and Regs Committee.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I've referred it to the Rules and Regulations Committee. And then from that point, they will develop language along with the trustees And then we can present that August. And then I think we have 2 readings after that. Is that right, Sue? So we would finish up sometime before Christmas, right?
And we would just need to do it one additional time.
Oh, okay, well, that's fine. Okay. Any other new business?
I don't have anything else.
Okay. Okay, Matt, we're gonna go into closed session.
Yes.
No,
I do.
before we go into closed session, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Doris.
There's a letter in our package from AFT St. Louis Local 420.
That'll be an item I will discuss in my
Okay.
closed session.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. That language to go into closed session, can somebody read that for us?
Okay, I'll read it. To close the meeting and that all records and votes to the extent permitted by law pertaining to and or resulting from this closed meeting be closed under RS Missouri Section 610.021 for the purpose of having a confidential or privileged communication with the legal counsel for the PSRSSTL on legal matters.
Second.
Okay, we have a roll call.
Okay, Angela Banks,
Yes.
Christina Bennett,
Yes.
Louis Cross,
Yes.
Sheila Goodwin,
Yes.
Martell Mann,
Yes.
Bobby Richardson,
Yes.
Justin Stein, oh, he had to leave, sorry.
Mhm.
Doris Walker.
Yes.
Okay, so we have 7. Motion carries. Just give me a moment.
Chris is ready to get out of Dodge. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Sheila Goodwin makes a motion that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Richardson, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you all so much. It's 7 o'clock, no, 6:56, and the meeting is over. And thank you all so much for your attendance.
All right, good
Okay.
night,
Bye.
everybody.
Matt,
Good night.
Sue, everyone, thank you all. Good night.
Good night.